When we started, I held the frog over the first pot of boiling water. He was uncomfortable and he tried to get away from the heat. But now, because we're raising the temperature slowly, he doesn't recognize the danger he's in. He just keeps going along with the changes in his surroundings.
You may have heard the term Doomerism or Doomer on social media or on some of the more casual TV news channels. A Doomer is someone who is unduly pessimistic or alarmist. Doomerism definitely exists, and it surely always has. I remember in the 2010s, my boss constantly watching the stock market prices and freaking out because JCPenney, nothing to do with the company, not remotely involved, not in the same industry. JCPenney, it grew by 0.2% less than analysts predicted. We're going to have to downsize. We're going to have to streamline. We're going to have to line everyone up and go down them and pick out every 10th man. How's the bunker coming along, George? It was me in charge of the bunker, was it? I mean, yeah, good. Yeah, it's good, yeah. If by bunker you mean ditch. I've picked out a nice one for us. Undue pessimism, being a doomer, isn't really helpful, at least when it's in the mode of, we're doomed, there's nothing we can do, don't try. Really, it's the don't try part that matters. But the majority of times that I've seen it used, it's employed to dismiss legitimate concerns as unduly pessimistic, especially when bleak facts are stated without a, but we can do something, sign off. To cut to the chase, if you've seen my other videos, you can probably guess what I think. I'm pretty convinced by the limits to growth, and especially the recalibration that has industrial production rapidly waning as growth and demand stretch our collective ability to produce, and in turn, possibly maybe, the socio-economic bedrock of industrialized society. Oi noi! The water crisis is irrefutably real, and with climate change, looks set to destabilize the world with massive famine and unparalleled refugee crises, as people flee the tropics and elsewhere for their lives. These things are happening now, but for people who aren't directly affected by them, the signs may be as small as price increases or the twittering of concerned voices as the channels are flicked through.
An idea is a thought in someone's mind.
It's not doomerism to say these things. There are stacks of scientific papers from across the world that say it, with stacks of statistics to back it all up, and many of them, even from decades ago, suggest things along the lines of, it may be too late to reverse course, it may be time to prepare for the effects rather than prevent them. I think I've read enough of these scientific papers now to confidently say that that's academic for oh fucking bollocks. Climate change, the water crisis, the limits of extraction, the growing effects of pollution are not exactly the same problem, but broadly they share the same set of problems, and I think probably the same fantastical solution. The truth is, the solution is totally unpalatable to the majority of people, at least the majority who have the power to steer things. But I think, really, most people. There are too many people for the way we live. How can you reduce the global population over a generation or two in a way that is fair, or moral, or not oppressive? Consumerism needs to end, not out of ideology but necessity. You can't do that without disintegrating the economy and dramatically altering or going against the current culture, not just in the West but globally. How do you do that with consent? How do you do that without ruining people's lives? Industrial production needs to be drastically curtailed. Again, how can you do that even in an orderly way? I have plenty of criticism for unchecked capitalism, but the problematique is really far more fundamental than that. It's not like communists or Khans are against growth. What is the system we must adopt to stave off calamity? Druidism? To be clear, I don't think that there's some big conspiracy or that human beings are going to die off, just that Well, I've already said it. I have no doubt humans will be around in 100 years. How they live, what they think, why they think the world is the way it is, I don't know. And if only it were a conspiracy of wealthy elites or some omni-shadow group all working together like the straws in Kerplunk. But it's not. It's seemingly progress itself, maybe inherent not even just to us but intelligent and self-conscious life. It gives a whole new dimension of woe to the Fermi paradox. A total step change, a coming together, a reorganization has always been nigh impossible, and we've kicked it down the road for so long that it is now even more insurmountable. Can we do something? Yes. Is writing to your local representative or making a soul-crushing video better than nothing? Maybe. Maybe in the same way, fanning your arms against a tornado is better than nothing. It is something to do. So yes, there is a solution, but not pessimistically, realistically, it's not going to happen. That's what I think the truth is. Things are going to get dramatically worse for everyone over the next 50 years, for the next 50 years, forever really afterwards, but they won't know because that'll be normal to them. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't fight or hope. Quite the opposite. I think if you stop fighting and just roll over, well, you've lost. And there's still something afterwards. I don't think all of humanity is going to die or anything. So you just got to keep going. That's all we can do. Children still need to see goodness. People need leadership. Just because everything's bad doesn't mean we need to give in. Now, I could be wrong now. But I don't think so. It's a jungle out there. Or it was, before we chopped it all down and burned all the wood. Far more fascinating, at least to your baldy Toby jug here, is that Doomerism is obviously not the status quo. Flicking through cable news the other day, as I am wont to do while enjoying my usual lunch of dehydrated bread sandwich and must combo, what did ABC have on its screen during one of its unlimited breaks for a minute of elevator music and news stories summed up in 10 words or less? Scientists say plastic pollution may cost $1.5 trillion a year in health effects worldwide. Okay, interesting, and we're back in the studio, and welcome back. What's the news story everyone's talking about? Is Beyoncé entering her rock era? Never mind the World Bank, the OECD, Morgan Stanley talking about slowing global growth, two famous people are dating. Never mind the rivers of blood, think about public bathrooms. Again, this isn't remotely new. I grew up in British state education and they love to talk about World War II. Not just in history classes. Let's do creative writing, set in World War II. Those bloody Germans. Nothing, not one thing in A-level history, in the media I was exposed to, in any bullshit class masquerading as social studies or citizenship, about the heinous shit Britain was up to in Ireland as we coloured. Some people argue colonialism was good, others argue it was bad. They wouldn't dare talk about Kenya, India, Malaya in any real way. If you asked a question about it, it was like, why are you being a bummer? Is it because you're German? What about the Germans? Was torturing Kenyans as bad as Auschwitz? Feels like a lot of the reaction to talk about doom, as if it weren't all doomed from the start, are much the same. Why are you being a bummer? Don't you believe in the power of innovation? We're probably only a few years away from a machine that can magic up more water, or desalinate at 10% of the current cost, while shooting the byproducts into the sun, or cool the atmosphere at a physics-defying scale. Didn't you hear about the bacteria that eats plastics? If you ignore the viability of scale, the limitations, the fact we're producing and binning more plastic than ever, that's really good news. Comets are probably full of potash. Let's catch them with one of our many city-sized space stations.
They believe the huge space colony could be built before the year 2000. From dairy farms to manufacturing, the concept of living and working in space is a possibility with existing technology.
Polar to the doomer is the norm, the optimist staring through reality into concocted hope. The thing so common and normal we don't even have a name for it. The denialist, the deluded, the willfully asleep. To me, it seems like on an individual level the bitter reality is too much to bear, and in that feedback loop of hope and denial, on an institutional level there is no upside to being honest. Surely ABC is just giving people what they want in their multi-panel exploration of what Beyoncé really symbolizes. Surely Good Morning America would lose ratings if they really leveled with their audience. Hey there America, everything's great. Today we've got someone on to give surface level condescending advice to Gen Z and millennials on how to save for retirement. Yes, hello there, don't bother. Surely if governments vocally confronted the future, the house of cards would collapse anyway. Better, in their minds, to keep the charade going as long as it can. It is what the people want. Staring into the abyss for too long is dangerous. Sure. But what's really crazy is standing over the Grand Canyon and looking at the sky and saying, insisting, what canyon? I don't see a canyon. There is no canyon, you're an idiot. Let's go to Wendy's. So the truth of our predicament, if it is the truth, because I could be wrong, but I think it is pretty miserable. It's a hard pill to swallow. And I think for me, I was always interested in how the world works, or specifically how the human world works, and always interested in certain angles of that. And then COVID happened and the veil was kind of lifted a bit for me. I was familiar with the limits to growth, but then I read the whole thing and I read the recalibration and I read other stuff around it, and it was very convincing and devastating. It was devastating for a long time. But it was clarity. You know, sort of like, finally you can wipe your glasses and, oh, I've been looking at a monster. But I would rather know the reality than live a lie. You know, and now that I've kind of accepted it, now that I've had time, there's a sort of, there's a sense of dread, for sure. But I suppose, acceptance, I guess. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop fighting. If I did, I'd be really miserable. I'd rather fight a losing battle than just roll over and die. And there you go. Spread the word. Or don't. Sun's coming up anyway. Goodbye. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.